Within Blue Lock, the goal of every striker there is to reach the spot of the number 1. And for our main character, Yoichi Isagi, that means facing off against Noa directly, surpassing him with a theory that he could never understand. Well, we know that Isagi, as a talented learner, highlights his style by playing rationally, devoting himself fully to winning or scoring goals. But will that truly be enough to surpass the greatest striker in the world? I personally don't think so. So then, how is Isagi going to surpass Noa? Well, in today's video, I have a theory for you that relates to a player's ego and their styles, and I think that Isagi will discover his super victory theory through Seishiro Nagi's return in the series. Now, you can call this cope or whatever you want, but if Nagi does return, it will lead to Isagi being the best striker in the world, and here's how. Now, before I get into the spoilers, and like I always do, the Discord thing, yada yada yada, I want to give some credit for half of this theory to BLUELOCK TV on TikTok. He cooked on the very first half of this theory and was very influential with the rest of it, so go show him some love. The link to his TikTok is down below. And before you say anything, he gave me permission to make this video using his theory, so don't go ahead and say I stole some content. He told me I could use his theory. Don't even worry. Now, like always, spoilers for the latest chapters of the Blue Lock manga. If you're not caught up with the latest releases in the series, click off this video now. I also have a Discord server called the Neo Egoist Geeks, which you should totally join. The link to that is down below. So when it comes to Isagi, what is he missing that would allow for him to surpass Noa? Well, a lot actually. He lacks genetic or genius level individual talent. He is by far outclassed in relation to physical stats. His kinetic vision and playmaking are high, but in relation to outclassing a genius in Noa, it's going to be very hard to do. I mean, every genius in this series is incredibly flashy, using their individualized weapons to create a dramatic performance on the field. Chigity's World Roaring Rush, Bado's Isagi Hunting, Green's Destroyer Mode, Shido's Big Bang Drive. In the U20 game alone, the geniuses were the ones who were highlighting the stage, and only under very certain circumstances did a talented learner steal the spotlight. So when it comes to Isagi surpassing Noa, a genius is going to have a clear advantage over a talented learner when it comes to popularity, which according to Prince and Noah's conversation has a lot of impact on the standing of your placement as the best in the world. But then what exactly is Isagi supposed to do? Well, it's simple. Become a genius. Which I know is crazy because it's literally impossible for a talented learner to become a genius, and it's quite impossible for Isagi at this point in the series. I mean, it was his logic of believing that he was in the same category as Rain and Bado and Shido and Nagi that led him to being at a lower level than his peak performance. So how and why would becoming a genius help Isagi evolve and surpass Noa? Well, allow me to explain. Within Blue Lock, there are two main classifications for players: talented learners and geniuses. Talented learners are players who use logic and rationality to dominate the field. For example, you have Isagi, who uses his spatial awareness to calculate and predict the future actions and flow of the game. You have Ryo, who analyzes players in order to copy their techniques. And you have Kaiser, who applies physics to his playstyle to allow for the Kaiser impact to perform at maximum effectiveness. However, on the other side, you have geniuses who rely on instinct, emotion, or genetic mutations to force themselves and their styles upon the world stage. Examples of this are Bado's selfish ego, as it effectively works as he trusts himself and his plays more than traditional tactics. You have Shido's instant understanding of his position in relation to the goal, making him a goal-scoring machine. And you have Bachira's intuitive dribbling, to where his plays and performances are creations of pure instinct, something that not even he knows will work out until it does. When you reference these styles to numerous different characters, it makes sense to classify them in two separate categories. However, these two separate categories also classify themselves to the two hemispheres of the brain. Looking at how the brain functions, processes information, and, works, it's divided into two different hemispheres. The left side of the brain controls aspects such as logic, analysis, and structured ideas, while the right side controls instinct, creativity, and emotional range. Within Blue Lock, Ego applies and amplifies these aspects of the brain, forcing them to collide on the pitch. And throughout the trials and selection events, Ego intends to bring out the best in both of them, and this is how the Blue Lock project works. Through the performance of these two opposing ideologies, players have some issues when it relates to each other. Talented learners despise the natural talent and genetic mutations that allow for geniuses to cheat their way past their hard work. This is shown with Kaiser despising both Loki and Noah, calling them unfair in relation to him, while geniuses mock talented learners for their overthinking and complex plans. And this is shown through Nagi, as he makes fun of both Bachira and Isagi, as their coordinated efforts are ones that required too much thought, as Nagi's genius level abilities allowed for him to easily perform it without having to think too hard. But when we process what Ego is looking for in relation to a Blue Lock player, he isn't necessarily looking for a talented learner or a genius. Through the events highlighting the genius's incredible potential and talent, and displaying the talented learners who adapt, analyze, and evolve to keep up, it stimulates the greatest of both groups. And by doing so, Ego is looking for a player who can combine both attributes of the brain, just like his old rival and greatest striker in the world, Noa Noa. When you look at chapter 165, we see this panel which shows Noa Noa split down the middle, highlighting his pure ambidexterity and his ability to use both sides of his body equally as strong. But it also emphasizes how Noa Noa is able to combine both elements of the brain. He took both mindsets and styles for strikers and players and combined them into one, making him the most dominant player in the Blue Lock world. Combining the raw power and ambidexterity he got as a genius with the technical, analytical, and rational thinking of a talented learner has allowed for him to embody both elements of the brain. This would make Noa Noa less of a genius and more of a hybrid. I mentioned this back in my talented learner times genius video, and this is further evidence of that theory being true. Through medical research, it has also been documented that there are individuals who can actively use both sides of their brain equally, as opposed to one side being more dominant. And this is described as the golden brain complex. People who can use both sides of their brain, highlighting the intuition, instinct, and creativity that the right-brained individuals have, with the left-brain analytical and rational thinking. Ego's processes of Blue Lock and the selection events that he has done are in an attempt to influence individuals to bring out the greatest elements and sides of their brain, while deducing the individuals who can apply both sides of the brain to their styles as well. This is why, through the wildcard program, we saw Kunigami literally take a 180 on his personality. Through medical trials and research and specific events, Ego tried to forcibly create the situation in a rushed manner, but also reintroduce him to the project as a leverage and a key for individuals to embody both elements of the brain as well. And I do believe that this is going to be brought up later in the story with Isagi and Kunigami in a future game. But anyways, if this golden brain theory does exist, are there any examples of it in this series aside from Noa Noa? Well, yes there is. The most prominent one is Michael Kaiser. Kaiser is an individual who has displayed incredible compatibility when fusing all elements of one's ego and mindset. He plays and thinks like a talented learner, analyzing the field and effectively making rational and logical choices in relation to himself and his positioning. But he also plays like a genius, leveraging his genetic weapon, the Kaiser Impact, over others, as well as forcing his malice upon those against him. This also applies to the states in which Kaiser can perform well, seen with him thriving in both freedom and restrictive environments that Isagi has provided him with. When you look at the ego sheet that Isagi provides us in relation to a player's ego of world or self and environmental aspects such as freedom and restriction, Kaiser can perform well in all sections of this chart. Of course, Isagi did define Kaiser as a restrictive talented learner, but we could learn more about this as we go throughout the series. I mean, if Isagi originally believed Kaiser to be a genius surpassing that of even Nagi or Rin, it's possible that his original deduction wasn't entirely off. This is why Noa is so interested in Kaiser and considers him to be a potential rival. He's the only other player who has the same compatibility for the golden brain that he does. There are examples in both the old and new generation of these hybrid players who embody both elements of the world and self-style egos. And Ego hopes to create one himself that can not only surpass Noa, but do it by embodying the true ideologies of soccer and egoism. That is what the Blue Lock project is really about. Creating a player who can transcend the divide of talented learners and geniuses, using logic and rationality to emphasize the instinct and creativity that a player needs to become the best. Doing so would allow for the individual to awaken their entire brain, creating the golden brain, where calculation and creativity become one single action. But how does the golden brain theory relate to Nagi's return to us in this series, or Yoichi Isagi's awakening into the greatest striker in the world? Before I get into it though, if you are enjoying this video so far, leave me a like and subscribe down below to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this. And if you want to become a member of the channel yourself, you would not only unlock some awesome perks like shoutouts and videos and personal video requests, but you would also get your name mentioned in the Blue Lock New World movie as a contributor to the project. So if you want to help support me and my content, become a member today and get some awesome benefits. Now with Nagi recently being kicked out of Blue Lock, it is a very discerning situation for him, especially when Ego considered Nagi's talent to have withered away. And while many suspect Nagi to be completely kicked out of the Blue Lock project here as well as the series, I do have a slightly different theory. The first thing I want to look at is actually Ego's words in this latest chapter, because when he speaks directly to Nagi here, he says something a little bit strange. In the end, Seishiro Nagi, you spoke of being the world's best, but you couldn't find a fire beyond the dream to defeat Yoichi Isagi. You were satisfied, right? That's why you were afraid of losing the ones around you, no? This is Blue Lock. I only need crazy bastards who won't be satisfied until they're the world's best. Normies who are satisfied with less than that, please, go home, Seishiro Nagi. Now obviously this is one hell of a speech by Ego and a good goodbye message to Nagi, but there's more to it than that. And it brings up a lot of points, specifically some stuff mentioned in the episode Nagi manga. In chapter 32 and 33 of the episode Nagi spin-off manga, we see Nagi speaking with Ego in the World 5 about ego and ambition. Ego mentions the concepts of death and how no matter what, everyone is going to die someday. So we ask Nagi his ambitions for soccer despite knowing that he's going to die. And obviously we know Nagi is dead now. In relation to Blue Lock, he did not meet the top 23, so he's dead. Bro dead. But Ego's words about facing death, knowing it's coming, and still having the ambition to play, it seems rather important. In the following chapter, Nagi has a discussion with the World 5 about Ego. They tell him that in order to understand his ambition and reason for playing, he needs to embrace his irrepressible impulses. And I feel like that's really important for right now in the story. Nagi in chapter 298 embraces irrepressible impulse and passed to Ryo. I mean, he did instinctively do it. That impulse was literally something that he could not contain, and it led him to death. Or did it? Maybe sticking in Blue Lock was bound to lead him to death, and now being removed from the project is his way to survive and redevelop himself. I mean, Ego himself told him that Blue Lock is not a place for people like him right now. What if Ego is telling Nagi to leave because Blue Lock is not the place he needs in order to grow and evolve? Even if players are on a decline, Ego has always shown that he cares for these players and wants to nurture their talent. As someone who has seen what Nagi is capable of, even going back to the beginning of the series, him telling Nagi to leave with no plans in mind doesn't seem like something that he would do. Even looking at chapter 2 of the episode Nagi manga, he tells Nagi to leave and rot away in comfort, but after Nagi enters the project anyways with Ryo, Ego smiles. He knows that Blue Lock is not the place for him right now, and he has a plan for Nagi in the future. But how does this relate to the golden brain theory that I just mentioned earlier? Well, looking at Ego's words of Nagi, he describes Nagi's talent as being gone, withered away to be exact. And in chapter 281, Ego describes what it means to be a genius. He mentions how players born with unique traits, abilities, or even mutations that allow for them to succeed in certain areas of life lead to the redevelopment of the world standard. That is what Ego defines as a genius. And we know Nagi to be a genius. Well, he was. But now with the loss of his talent, you can't really call him a genius anymore, because he just lost the one thing that made him one. So by Ego's definition, Nagi is no longer a genius. But that's a good thing. At the end of chapter 299, we see Nagi about to speak to Ryo, and I have some theories as to what will happen. Now remember, what I'm about to say is a theory. If I'm proven wrong and I'm wrong, I will admit it, I was wrong, but this is a theory, hear me out. With Nagi and Ryo's dialogue at the end of chapter 299, Nagi will eventually leave Blue Lock. However, Nagi will first express to Ryo that he has grown to love the sport and tells him that he wants to go out and discover his true ego. In a mirroring to the second selection, Nagi would tell Ryo that he is going on ahead and that he is going to catch up to him. Nagi would then leave with the chance to go out and explore his ego, playing at the club level and re-evolving, while Ryo went off to play in the under-20s. Now what I'm about to say follows along with my other Nagi theory video that I posted a couple days ago. In that theory, I explained how Nagi would make a return to us in the series after an injury from someone like Chigiri in the U20s World Cup, making him unable to play in the main World Cup. And this would be like after the U20 World Cup is done. So after they face the players who are under 20 and they're going into like the main one, where like Noah will be and the not under 20s people, that's where Nagi would make his return. A lot of people were commenting on that video saying how if Nagi were to return, it would make no sense and would bring nothing to the story. Well, we have that use now. With Nagi returning and rejoining the under-20s team, being scouted from his club and revitalizing his ego, Isagi would notice something different about him. Through their games in the World Cup and experience, Isagi would realize that Nagi isn't the same anymore. And this is where we would get the reveal that Nagi has returned to us as a golden-brained hybrid egoist. In the short time against Barca, Nagi learned how to play more actively, and going to Manshan City or whatever club he went to, Nagi would learn to incorporate analysis and logical thinking into his plays. His style was conditioned into Nagi, rebuilding his ego from zero after his death in Blue Lock. And now Seishiro Nagi has returned, not as the lazy genius, but as the active genius. Isagi would begin to analyze Nagi more, attempting to understand more about what he did to awaken and evolve, where he would delve deeper into the talented learner and genius classifications. Isagi would begin to understand the golden brain theory, seeing it in action from Nagi, and understanding the rationality behind Kaiser in the NEL. This would be the final piece that takes Isagi to the highest level as an individual, learning from all of the people he played alongside, combining the creativity and instinct of a genius with the rational and logical thinking of talented learners. It's even possible that Isagi's genius quality hasn't been identified by him in the series, but we know what it is. In chapter 292, he already talks about Isagi's true magic of drawing out the true egos of others. By doing this, he effectively elevates them as individuals and lets them play with the purpose of evolving themselves and him in the process. We see this with Yukimiya, Hiyori, and Kaiser in the NEL, but also Rin, Bachara, Nagi, and Baro in earlier sections of the story. Isagi's genius quality is the drawing out and elevation of his allies' egos, allowing for them to play on a higher level when playing alongside Yoichi Isagi. I feel like once Isagi realizes this, he will learn the truth behind the talented learner and genius spectrum, as well as unlock his golden brain super victory theory to surpass Noel Noah. Now realistically, this theory does lack a little bit of evidence, but I'm honestly interested to see where it goes in the future of the story. That was just simply my theory as to how I believe Nagi's return would lead Isagi to being the best in the world. Now remember, this video is simply a theory video, and it's not supposed to be taken like, oh, this is going to be fact, just a theory. If you disagree with this theory, you are fine to do so. It is your opinion, this is my opinion, they don't have to be the same. And if you want to believe this is cope, yeah, you're right. My glorious trapping white hair brown-eyed king Seishiro Nagi will return to us to the series, and he is going to be the goatest of goat, better than anyone, better than Noel Noah, better than Ego, better than Henri. Okay, well, maybe not that far, but you know what I mean? But aside from the jokes, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. Also, go check out BLUELOCK TV. The link to his TikTok is down below in the description. Before the video ends, I want to say thank you so much to all of the members of this channel who help support me and my content. And if you want to earn some awesome benefits like they do and even get your name mentioned in the BLUELOCK New World movie, become a member yourself and help support me and my future content. Lastly, a final reminder to join my Discord if you're interested in getting any more involved with our amazing community. As for the question of the video, do you think the golden brain theory has some truth to it, or is it all just cope? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe to see more awesome BLUELOCK content just like this.